Yes, I am still behind the camera, and yes, I am still sporting my Astrid war wound. So just heads up for people. This is this is Cat. This is yeah. Everybody's fine. It's just a scar I've got now for the foreseeable future. But yes, still behind the camera, still playing catch up, and finally taking a look at another Ocular Max combiner figure. And you may notice this is not part of the Assaultus combiner. I do hope to get to the rest of that at some point in the future, because I've so far done videos on 2 of the 5 members of Assaultus, their Combaticons, and I do have the full set. I've had it for like over a year at this point, but I just haven't bothered to make videos on the rest of them yet. I'm sorry. I do hope to do that in the future. But for now, I kind of wanted to cover Medicus here because this is just a really neat figure, even as just a standalone. Honestly, I have not put this guy into his arm mode yet, and I don't intend to until I get other members of the Combiner team, which is probably going to be another couple of years at this point. But just as a standalone figure, this guy's really cool. I actually like him a lot. We had several months of them not flying planes directly over our apartment, and I squandered them all. Anyway, yes, Medicus is First Aid, I think, is the Protectobot's official name, and this is a really cool little Ironhide-ish, Ratchet-ish, just in terms of shape, ambulance van, and it's very clean. There are definitely some panels on this guy that you can see, but overall, I think he covers it up pretty darn well. And actually, this is not a panel line, that's actually, well, I mean, it is a panel line in the sense that it's a line in a panel, but this is not a joint. This line underneath the Gensi is actually molded in and painted, so the actual joint line is like inside the text there. But yeah, he does a really good job of hiding his panels for the most part, considering everything he does. And I like that they did the deco kind of all the way around. You've got the translucent cloudy blue for the windshield and the side windows and the cab section, or the front section, and then painted windows around the rest of it. And I kind of feel like they could have just painted the windows all the way around, but whatever. Another thing that's kind of weird is they did the black trim around the side and back windows, and they even did black trim around the windshield, but they didn't do it around the driver's side or passenger side windows. I don't understand why they didn't do the black trim there. So then it just doesn't match, and it's a little bit irritating. But moving on to more deco stuff, we've got Emergency on the side, obviously, which we've already talked about, and some extra color along the side there, and then also they did this trim around the bottom, which looks really nice. And even this little like vent or something down there, don't really know what that is, but they painted that. Silver on the handles for the doors, which is really cool, and of course silver on the rims. The wheels are plastic, and I am totally fine with that. There's whatever this Illuminati looking thing is on the front. They did paint, or at least sticker, the side mirrors, so you got some silver there, and these are flexi plastic. And I know all the coloring they did up here. They picked out a lot of stuff in paint on this vehicle mode, which I think is really cool. Even on the back, they did the windshield wiper, or the rear windshield wiper, which, yeah, they got them on the front too. The license plate area, the rear, the taillights. They did a really good job on the deco of this vehicle mode. And then at the top, you've got the emergency lights, which are actually separate pieces of plastic. It's very neat and compact and kind of clean. I like that. As for the size, I need to readjust. Okay, there we go. And yes, you may notice that there are some differences in what's going on with the standard size comparison group, because I no longer have Spinister. It was a tough decision, but I decided Rotor Storm is really my preferred version of the mold, and shelf space, etc. So Rotor Storm is standing in for Spinister, and I also figured I might as well include a Voyager figure in these standard comparisons moving forward. So, for the time being at least, Generation Select's Artfire is going to be my standard Voyager size comparison. So here we've got Medicus with the kind of standard comparisons, and as you can see, he is a pretty dense little van that is bigger than a deluxe, but for what he is and what he does, this is pretty small. And let me bring this down just a little bit. You can see how Medicus measures up to another standard-ish size comparison. At least standard for this channel. Alright, transformation time. Let's preemptively raise this up. And let's get to it. So Medicus's transformation is, it's an Ocular Max figure that's all built in. So it is a little bit on the, I don't want to say complex side, but it's definitely more involved than, like a mainline Voyager, Deluxe Leader, that kind of thing. And also, I'm only going to be doing vehicle to robot. I'm not going to be doing his limb mode because I'm going to save that for when I hopefully and eventually do the full Combiner Team combine mode video. Just going to go through all those transformations there. So to start, I'm going to break this in half. Just going to wiggle these pegs out up here and bend this down a little bit so that we've got some room to work. Now we're going to start with the legs, so split back. Just unpeg all of that. And there's so much to do on these legs. So to start, going to pull up here to pull this entire section up and then swing it around. So that wiggle and some careful pulling, and there we go. And then this will swing out, and you can see the fingers there. So yeah, that swings out just to get out of the way. And now we will unpeg this from here and swing it down, again, just to get it out of the way. Next, we want to accordion this out. It's on like a double hinge, so accordion that out. And with all of this out, that gives us the room we need to rotate this panel around. So rotate and rotate. It's a little bit tricky because these bits can get in the way of the rotation, but it's doable. So rotate that around, and now that that's rotated all the way around, this will swing up and slide down on this slider here. And then there are tabs up here that will tab in here. So you want to line that up. There you can see the, there are the two slots that those two tabs go into. So push that down. Just bring the leg out. Push it down until it clicks, and then plug it in. And we can swing this out. Take the weirdly shaped fingers and bring them up on this hinge, and then curl these in. At least this is what I like to do, is curl the fingers in to give it a little bit more room, and just bring those in like that. So that gets the, it's so hard to show all this, that gets the fingers out of the way, and now this panel that we pulled out will open up and swing in, and this is supposed to tab into here, and it doesn't really like to hold on mine, which is not the biggest problem. It's just a little bit irritating, but yeah, doesn't hold on mine. Now, take this bit and fold that out, and then rotate this the rest of the way down, and then rotate this down, and basically do it like that to get out of the way. Swing this back around and push this back into place, and now we can straighten this out, and straighten this out. And finally, take the thigh and shift it out. And there we have one leg done. Other leg, it's the same deal with the other leg, except this particular leg has part of the thumb for the robot mode hand, for the combine mode hand in it. And if you have it folded up the right way, when you're going from robot to ambulance and back, you don't have to touch the thumb at all. So I'll show you what that is when I get to it. But yeah, for the most part, this is pretty much the same as this. So these fingers, the thumb, like there you can see the thumb's all curled up there. You want the thumb curled up. So many things in the way, trying to get it so you can see what I'm talking about. You want the thumb curled up like this, because if you curl up the thumb like this, you don't have to touch it at all. You can just leave it as is, and you can transform this section just like you do with the other section. You can just ignore that thumb entirely when you're doing the robot to robot to ambulance and ambulance to robot. So yeah, that's the orientation you want the thumb in, to make sure it's out of your way forever until you eventually decide to go into arm mode. All right, now the rest of this is exactly the same. All right, and there we have Medicus's legs. You can kind of do a girl walk with it. And now for the upper body. So to start, I'm going to fold up these emergency lights just to get them out of the way. And you want to pull down these side panels, and I find the easiest way to get to those, rotate that out of the way, is there's a little bit of a lip here. You can kind of give it a little tug from there, and up here. Oh, that's really in there. All right. Using the spudger. Pry that out carefully. Carefully pry that out. There we go. And that will extend. It's on a double hinge right in here, so you kind of want to extend that out so you can fold it out as much as you can. And same on this side. Fold that. Get this unpegged. There we go. And then shift it up and hinge it out. And here is his little weapon welder, or whatever this is. It just, you can tuck it in here or here. Either side works, but I love that he's got weapon storage that completely hides it. And this just, fold out the handle, and there's his little gun. Or welding torch, or whatever. Now, I'm going to take the windshield section and pull that out, and that accordions out on a whole lot of hinges. So get that out of the way, and now we can pull these sections up on here and here, and the reason you want to pull those up is because they tab into what will become the arms. And also, when going into ambulance mode, you do not want to put these lights down right away, because they'll keep these from being able to lift up more, and that'll just make getting the arms into position harder. So you want to get the arms into position first, then bring these down to peg them in. So lift that up just to get it out of the way, and now the arms will, they do peg into the center here too, so you want to pull those out as well. Bring this down so you can kind of see more what I'm talking about. There we go. Unpeg that. Now these will swing around, but first we're going to have to get this out of the way. But I want to unpeg the arms before we do all that. So let's get the other arm. There we go. So now with all of that ready to go, we unpeg the front section, and it actually pegs into some tabs at the top of this red piece here. So you pull that forward to unpeg it, and there's the slot, there are the two pegs. So you unpeg it, and this is as much clearance as you're going to get, so rotate this around 180 degrees like that. Now we can bring the arms out, and you just swing past these little side panels. Bring those up and out of the way. And now this junk up here, I want to fold in. Now these bits do rotate up, and you do want to rotate them up. Don't rotate them up all the way, because they'll catch in here when they need to rotate. So just kind of rotate them up some of the way, and then rotate this in, and you'll see how these go just underneath that lip up there. So rotate these in and get all that situated, and that will just tuck in and hide away in the back, which is really nice. Now these bits will fold in on this hinge, which is very, very tight on mine. Like, going into robot mode, it's fine, but going into ambulance mode, they get really stiff about here, and it's a little bit, like, scary. I just have to be really careful and apply pressure in very specific places to straighten this out. But anyway, bring that in, and then bring this in, and this will just tuck into the midsection like that. And on this side, same deal. Bring that in, bring that in, and there we go. Now there are a couple of ways to do this. I prefer to just bring this in first and then bring this over top of the windshield. You can do it a different way, but I think this looks a little bit cleaner. But if you wanted to, you could bring this in first and then have the windscreen over it. But like I said, I just think it looks a little cleaner. So when you're bringing this down, you just want to make sure that the front of the ambulance clears these little pointy bits on the side here. So once those are clear, you can swing this around and that tucks in very, very nicely. So for the arms, you want to unpeg this panel from here, and this is definitely handy to have one of these on hand. So unpeg that panel, straighten out the arm, and then once the arm is straightened out, this panel will close back in and fill in the forearm. And bring this down, rotate this around, and as with a lot of the figures, open up that panel to reveal the fist, and then swing the fist around, close it up, and then rotate the fist into position. I don't know for certain that you really have to rotate the fist around, but I find it fits a little bit better if you do. So that's how I handle that. And then I'm just gonna open up the hand a little bit, and then bring this down on this hinge, because there is actually this hinge for transformation and then an actual shoulder hinge. So bring all that down, and now same deal here. I'll also rotate this around and bring it down now. And unpeg, straighten out, fold in, open that panel up, and swing out the fist, close it up, rotate the fist around, and bring it down. Last little bits, these wheels are on sliders, so you want to slide them up, just to get them into a more, I guess, robot mode accurate position. And finally, the epic head reveal. You pull down this panel, flip the head up, and now this panel is on a double hinge, so you want to hinge it down and push it in, and that tucks in just below the neck, and so when the neck comes down, that kind of settles over those tabs and keeps that panel from coming back out. And then you can use the actual ball joints on the neck joint to pose the head instead of worrying about that, though you could use that if you wanted to. And that is it. We have made a Medicus, and this is a very cool looking little robot. He's very kind of basic, but in a cool way, if that makes any kind of sense. For some reason, even though there's not a lot of color breakup on this guy, or even molding breakup really, it doesn't bother me, which is weird because it runs counterintuitive to a lot of the criticisms that I have of other figures. But for some reason on this guy, it works. I feel like this does a really good job of kind of emphasizing the idea that it's trying to convey more of a cartoon aesthetic, whereas some of the other third-party figures, official figures, Ocular Max figures, whatever, they tend to have a little bit more going on, which makes them seem more like, I don't know, like toyetic, like more toy design or something, or slightly more just different. But for this guy, it all just feels like he's more supposed to look like a cartoon character, and you know, cartoon characters, generally speaking, aren't loaded with details, so I think this works really well. What I'm less enthusiastic about is the fact that the way he's designed, he doesn't really like to stand straight. It's easy for him to kind of lean backwards. That is a little bit annoying. As you can see, he's kind of leaning back a bit, but some of that is just his hips. So there we go. But yeah, I really like the look of this guy. The color breakup is simple but really nice. I kind of dig the white for the kind of knee, shin, boot section, and white for the arms, and then the red in the center, but then you also have a slightly darker tone of red going up the sides of the chest. And it's just a really nice look. Also, for some reason, I really find the wheels around the outside of the chest kind of endearing. But yeah, this is a very nifty standalone robot. There's not a lot of junk on the back. Yeah, he's clearly got the sides of an ambulance for his legs, and he's got this going on back here, but like silhouette-wise, there's really not a lot of junk on him. Cleans up really nice, and he just looks really cool. I really, really like the design of this guy. I can't really explain it, because I don't care about the Protectobots at all. I don't really have an affinity for any Combiner teams, really. I guess maybe the aerial bots because I owned Superion when I was a kid, but I don't really care about the aerial bots that much. I never owned the Protectobots. I think I had Blades, and that was it. So like I didn't have Defensor. I think I owned Motormaster, but never had Menasor. I think I only had Bone Crusher, so I never had Devastator. I'm detecting a pattern here. But I really like this guy as a standalone, and it has me looking forward to the rest of the team, regardless of what I end up thinking of the combined mode, because this is just a fun standalone figure. I really like it. Now, Medicus's head is really cool, actually. I like this. It's very Transformers-y, and that head shape, it, for some reason, really makes me think of a G1 Scramble City Combiner head. Specifically the combined mode limb heads. Like, something about this is very... I don't know, the shape just makes me think of a meticulously sculpted and painted post that's supposed to jam into a port. If that makes any kind of sense. That's just what I think of when I see this overall shape. It's kind of boxy, but has just enough curvature to it and sculpting on the sides and front to give it some personality. And I also really like the colors here. I like the brighter tone of red. Well, not brighter, but like the brighter compared to this tone of red that they used for the helmet itself. And then that nice bright white for the faceplate, and that really cool dark metallic blue for the eyes or the visor. It's really neat. And I like the mouthplate design too, how it kind of comes in and then goes up a little bit, like it's covering a nose partially. I don't know, I just really think that is a cool looking head sculpt. As we have seen, the head is on a ball joint, so you get a lot of expressive tilt side to side, and you can go up a fair ways, down a fair bit, and then if you use that transformation joint, you can go up a lot. And of course, you can rotate all the way around if you want to do that. The arms can do a 360 and go out on this hinge and out on the transformation hinge, so you can go all the way up. The only thing that stinks is this transformation hinge doesn't actually lock in anywhere or anyhow. There's a clever little carve out they did here so that it goes around this tab for the front of the vehicle, so it won't it won't bend that tab, but it doesn't actually lock into place. And this joint is looser than the actual shoulder, so if you go to move the shoulder up, you're going to be moving that joint first, and that's kind of, it's not bad, it's just a little bit irritating. And you get bicep swivel, a double jointed elbow that can bend all the way up. That's really nice, I like that. And then you get wrist swivel, as we've established. The thumb is on a ball joint, so that can move around, and then each of the individual fingers are pinned at the knuckles, so you get it's a single joint per finger, but each finger does move, so that's nice. And considering the fact that this guy is not, like, let's say, Fans Toys Road King size, so I think it makes sense that the fingers aren't individually articulated. Though Mastermind Creations, and by extension Ocular Max, has shown that they can do really nicely articulated fingers at a smaller size, like they did with Aerosculptor, but that's beside the point. Let's get these arms out of the way, and as you can see, they're coming up on those hinges again. But he also gets a waist rotation, which this little bit from the windscreen can get in the way of the rotation, but it's in a point where, it's rotated, it just kind of moves out of the way, so you don't have to worry too much about that. And then you also get an ab crunch that can go down about that far. It doesn't really want to go any further, and I don't want to force it. So, pretty cool, ab crunch. You also have butt skirt, hip skirt, and front hip skirt. The butt skirt is just one big flap, but everything gets out of the way, so the legs can go forward that far and back only that far, but given everything that's going on here, I think I kind of get it. Also, I do appreciate the fact that they specifically cut the back of the hip here so that it can go back that far. And then it can go out that far. You get thigh rotation. You also get a bit of around the knee rotation, which this is, looking at that mechanism, this is most definitely for the combined mode arm. So make of that what you will, but you do get that as a potential rotation joint if you want it. And then you get ankle tilts, which is really nice. This is way better than what they did with their Vortex. So ankle tilts, and then the toes can kind of, like the feet can kind of move up and down a little bit and wiggle around, but mostly it's the ankle tilt that you're using. So yeah, this guy is pretty decently posable for what he is. And we also need to give him his pistol, welder, whatever. It's very, very basic. It's more just like a shape with a tab for him to hold on to. There's a little bit of molding in there, but it's very simple. But it's fine for what it is, and it's very dinky, but I don't know if this is like an actual weapon or if it's like a welding torch or something. I choose to believe it's a welding torch because, you know, he's medic, protectabot, whatever. But anyway, this goes into his hand via this peg. It just kind of slots into the base of the palm, and it does not hold in well at all. Like that is going to fall out very easily. But because of the way it tucks in, when you curl his fingers around it, that's not going anywhere. Like the fingers do a really good job of holding it in place. So that tab is not load-bearing, but the fingers definitely work with it to keep that in place with no problems. Alright, let's pull things out a bit and make some more adjustments so we can do some size comparisons. Here he is with some mainline standards, let's say, and that ambulance compacts a lot. I always like it when figures take a deceptively small vehicle mode and have it expand out into a much larger robot than you think it's going to be. Because, yeah, this does not look that big when he's in vehicle mode. Now, unfortunately, at the moment, I don't have any of my other Ocular Max combiner figures, specifically for Assaultus, in their individual modes. They're all just combined. So I can't really be bothered to take them apart so I can do individual comparisons. But I've got Unique Toys version of Swindle, so if you want to see how Medicus stacks up with Gazranka, there's that. And just for fun, if you want to see how Medicus stacks up with Assaultus, there you go. And what the heck, since we looked at him recently-ish, here he is with DX9's drag strip, who is definitely bigger. Though the size difference between DX9 Stunticons and Ocular Max's Protectabots isn't quite as dramatic as the size difference between these guys and standard Masterpiece Carbots. Case in point, they both tower over a Masterpiece Carbot. It's just the DX9 Stunticons tower a little bit more. So yeah, Medicus is he's pretty big. As I said, I really like how everything compacts because the vehicle mode is definitely not tiny and it is relatively dense, but I do think it's really cool how he expands into a deceptively much larger robot. And that is gonna do it for Ocular Max Medicus. I do have their version of, I don't remember the third-party figure's name, I don't remember the character's name. The next one in this, the cop car. I have that one on pre-order, and I am very much looking forward to getting that, because that also looks like it's a pretty cool design. And I'm hoping that because it's primarily an off-white and red coloration, I could possibly get some kind of stickers or something to make it look more like a fire rescue car than law enforcement. So we'll see how that goes, but it looks cool, and that is... I'm definitely going in on this set. I mean, Assaultus was fantastic, and I think this is looking to be possibly even more fantastic, because I feel like Ocular Max, Mastermind Creations, whatever, seems to have learned a bit from Assaultus and is applying that more to what they're doing with the Protectabots. Nothing from Assaultus, aside from their Vortex, I would call weak in any way. Those were all great figures, and it's a great combiner set, but I feel like this just feels like they've taken what they learned from that and done a little bit more with it. It just feels a little bit more refined. So yeah, this guy's great, and honestly, I think even if you don't care about the Protectobots as a team, like if you don't care about Defensor, that's fine. But if you're looking for just a really cool standalone transforming robot figure, this is not a bad choice. But I've gone on long enough, so that is what I think of Ocular Max's Medicus. What do you think of this guy, or how the Protectobots team is shaping up so far? Or if you're watching this from a far enough away future that the Protectobots team is out, what do you think of the completed Defensor? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and remember, it's all toys, so let's just have fun with it, yeah?